This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Boy, if there was ever a win the Brewers needed more today, Sunday afternoon at American Family Field, they certainly get it. A walk-off win for the Brew Crew over the Miami Marlins. This one by a final score of 3-2. A Blake Perkins walk-off hit does it in for Miami as the Brewers salvage at least one game out of this three-game set after losing the first two games. Lots to get to on the program. The walk-off win for the Brewers, a good start from starter Brandon Woodruff, and the NL Central showdown ahead of the Brewers after the Miami Marlins take off out of town. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers postcast. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me over on X at Brandon_Snide and follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com, where we cover all of our Wisconsin sports teams. As always, thank you for making Locked On Brewers part of your day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as over on YouTube. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button for me, get notified. Make sure you hit that bell when we go live as we break down a Brewers win this afternoon in front of a sellout crowd. The seventh walk-off win for this team, the most now in the National League. As the show rolls on, your thoughts, your reactions, and today, finally, it's been a few games since we could have said this, but your celebrations are welcome back on the program today as we celebrate a 3-2 Brewers win. They get back up to that 19 games over 500, 62 and 43 on the season, and more importantly, staying in that race in the National League Central ahead of the Chicago Cubs as the Cubbies get set to come into town tomorrow. Let's get into the scoring summary today, brought to you by our wonderful partners over at Gametime and Game Day. Hugh, Miami wasting no time on starter Brandon Woodruff. We'll get into Brandon Woodruff's numbers because he was super impressive and has been impressive in all four of his starts, really, since coming back from the injured list. Stowers would get the Marlins on the board early with a 1-0 RBI single to left field. The Brewers, however, though, would respond. And would you be surprised if the guy doing the damage was Jackson Chourio? Because now, not one, not two, but 20-game hit streak for Jackson Chourio. The kid just keeps on getting it done. A star in the making. The sixth Brewer in franchise history to have 20 or more game hit streak. He extends that this afternoon at American Family Field with an RBI double. That would score Eric Haas. That would leave things tied at one apiece, but like we have saw, first two games of this series at American Family Field, Hernandez for Miami responding, wasting no time in the top of the fourth inning with a solo shot to right field. That would give the Fish the 2-1 advantage. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to take us to our turning point in this one. It was 2-1 in the eighth inning, and that's when things started to turn for the Brewers and a 3-2 win.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Just cannot emphasize enough how amazing Andrew Vaughn has been in a Milwaukee Brewer uniform. How many times I wish I would have kept track throughout the course of the 2-3 weeks he's been in Milwaukee on how many times either the turning point or the player of the game we have been talking about Andrew Vaughn and the importance he has played as a Milwaukee Brewer. His first game here against the Dodgers, has a 3-run home run, jump starts them in that series, then has a walk-off hit in the 10th inning there against LA in that game 3, and we're going way back before the All-Star break. Today, a ground rule double in the 8th inning would score Blake Perkins, who was a pinch runner on first, moved to second, and thankfully he stole second base because that allowed the ground rule double to score him. And so Andrew Vaughn would tie things up in the bottom of the 8th inning. Trevor McGill would come on in. He technically gets the victory today, but he held it down in the top half of the 9th inning after not pitching for a couple of days on extended rest. Looked good for Trevor McGill, but Blake Perkins with the bases loaded, Eric Haas getting things going in the bottom of the 9th with the single, Chourio and Bryce Terrain, with the hit to down the left field line would move Haas to third. Terrain would be at second. They would intentionally walk Jackson Churio, and Blake Perkins, full count, all the pressure, 1 out, and delivers the knockout punch deep to center field. And the Brewers escaping this series. And yes, I say escaping because, boy, it has been a series. I put it on my X account at Brandon_Snide. I am glad to put this team in the rearview mirror for now. They are making a push, but for now, I am putting them in the rearview mirror. They have been a thorn in the Brew Crew's side, a frustrating series. I'm glad that Milwaukee was able to walk away with 1 out of the 3 games being victorious, 2 out of 3 in Miami. So they split the season series with Miami, but a great come from behind victory for the Milwaukee Brewers, which at times really up until that 8th inning felt like this team was going to get swept. I was preparing for the loss. Nothing seemed to be going the Brewers' way. The starting lineup from the get-go was a little bit confusing when William Contreras in the spot that he was hitting in this afternoon, and no Sal Frelick and Christian Yelich in the cleanup spot, and you didn't like the feel offensively for this team from the get-go. But Bryce Terrain, an interesting move in that 8th inning. I know that Pat Murphy has done it before. He kind of trolled a little bit and said, I knew it would get, quote unquote, the media going. Bryce Terrain in the 8th inning was moved to shortstop. Anthony Sigler was inserted for Joey Ortiz. He moved to third, and then Caleb Durbin moved to second. So something to at least monitor, something to at least keep an eyeball on as the trade deadline just a few days away, as the Brewers reportedly in talks with multiple different teams and lots of different rumors circulating around this team, as power offense is obviously the much needed component for this team going forward. But nonetheless, we'll talk about the game today, a 3-2 Brewers win. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the player of the game. And yes, today, guys, you're getting 2 of them once again, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But 3-2 walk-off win, you got to have 2 players.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
And it's going to sound like a cop-out, and I understand that because, you could you win a game, you could probably have a few different players every win. But Brandon Woodruff for this team has been such an important piece, not only on the field, off the field, in the clubhouse. He has been fantastic. So 1A player of the game today goes to Woody. His 3rd quality start in his 4 starts since being activated off the IL. 6 innings pitched, just 2 earned runs, and just 4 hits allowed for Brandon Woodruff. 85 pitches thrown this afternoon, and Woody, not even his best stuff. Command wasn't there. He struggled with it early on. Miami jumped on him early in that game, but his ERA now just a tick above 2 at 2.01. Brandon Woodruff gets 1A player of the game, 6 innings pitched, as I mentioned, just the 2 earned runs and the 4 hits allowed. I thought he was fantastic. And then when you walk things off, you got to get at least a mention as the player of the game. Blake Perkins, the 1B player of the game this afternoon, walking off the fish in the bottom of the 9th with that no doubt a hit to deep center field. Would have scored a run regardless. I believe it was right around the warning track, maybe right before the warning track in right center field. And you got to feel really good for Blake Perkins. Not necessarily an everyday type player, although he has been inserted in the lineup more times than not. But for the start of training, spring training, when he breaks his shin on a ball that is hit off his leg and has the time to come back into the lineup, get healthy, kind of situate himself in a crowded outfield group and find his footing and step into a big part in this game. And remember, for Blake Perkins, he didn't even start this game. So he was inserted late in the game for William Contreras as a pinch runner. So for him to come in to not only score get the stolen base in that 9th inning, score off of that Andrew Vaughn ground rule double, and then come up in the bottom half of the 9th and have the winning hit, I thought was I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Blake Perkins as part of the winning formula, the player of the game for the Brewers in a 3-2 win over Miami, as we had mentioned before. 62-43 now on the season are your Brew Crew. 34-19 at American Family Field. Your thoughts, your reactions, and we get ready for the Chicago Cubs, all coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers postcast is brought to you by Game Day Hue. Today's episode, our wonderful sponsors, brand new at the Locked On Podcast Network, Game Day Hue, and so is this hat I am wearing if you're out there on the live stream. Brewers fans like me, this one is hitting the mark. I got it in Brewer Blue. It makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. This is awesome, guys, too, because super easy to order off their website, super comfortable. I catch myself wearing it. It's kind of like my go-to hat and has been my go-to hat. And it's not just hats that they make. Check out the split shade gloves if you're watching on the live YouTube stream here for my golfers out there, made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. And right now, Game Day Hue is offering you 15% off with MLB 15 once again at Game Day Hue. That's GameDayHue.com. The code even stacks on those bundle deals. So right now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com. Once again, that code word, MLB 15. Today's program also brought to you by our wonderful partners at Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it finally can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And it's more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, all of your spending in one simple place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. What I love about this app is everything, all of my accounts, everything, one simple app. I don't have to download 3 or 4 different apps to manage all my money. It's all in one spot. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. A walk-off win for the Brew Crew as they beat Miami at American Family Field. This one by a final score of 3-2. Blake Perkins walking things off in the bottom half of the 9th. Andrew Vaughn tying things up in the bottom of the 8th with the ground rule double. Chicago White Sox fans, don't look now. Andrew Vaughn has been absolutely fantastic for this team and very, very, very much needed. We mentioned it before in the show, the 7th walk-off win for Milwaukee, the most in the National League. The hit streak for Jackson Chourio rolls on 20 games. No Sal Frelick in this lineup, though, so that's okay as the Brewers do get the win as they slowly bring him back after that hamstring injury. And the good thing for the Brewers as they get set to welcome the Chicago Cubs, the Cubs squeaking out a win today over the White Sox. So the Brewers and Cubs maintaining pace with a pivotal 3-game series getting set in the Brew City starting tomorrow evening. Let's begin with your thoughts, your reactions, your celebrations. If you're over there on the live YouTube chat, please feel free to drop a comment, drop a thought, drop a question. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. We begin with Everydayer Jason. Much needed W, but great to see them fight back. The Bats need to come alive against the Scrubs. Go Brewers. Well, if there's one thing that the Chicago team doesn't do well, and they do a lot of things well offensively at the plate, certainly, the pitching for Chicago seems to kind of be a mess. Now, there's lots of rumors circulating that the Cubs are looking for a starter going forward into the trade deadline, as well as being in the talks for Eugenio Suarez. So we'll see where the Chicago Cubs go. Bullpen giving up a handful of runs there to the White Sox late in this game. But this is a very, very big series for the Brewers. Not the last time you're going to see the Cubs, but it's the last time you're going to see them at American Family Field. And you got to go out of this series at minimum, taking 2 out of 3, because the Brewers schedule in August, as we have talked about before and we'll talk about as we get closer, is very, very tough. Very, very tough. Harley over on YouTube, part of our Everydayers. Glad we got the win today. Still need one more power bat in this lineup. Got a feeling Suarez is on the mend. Mark A seemed to recently put this on the table. Make it happen. Go Brewers. Mark A on the television broadcast, I believe it was, more times than not, I believe, at least this time he spoke, was way more direct about making a move for this team. Mentioning this team has, and I'm paraphrasing him, has special things that it can accomplish. I don't know. Listening to him talk about that, it felt different than it has in years past. So I'm with Harley. I don't know if it's going to be Suarez. Again, it's kind of, for me, offensively speaking, it's Suarez or bust. But, it did feel in that interview that Mark A recently gave, and I believe it was with Brian Anderson and Rock on the television broadcast for the Brewers on FanDuel, Wisconsin. It did feel like he was kind of tipping his hand a little bit as saying, like, this is we're kind of going to go for it. But competing with the Cubs, latest rumor, still competing with the Mariners as far as interest in Suarez, and then Philly all of a sudden being a team as well as Cincinnati. I should mention Cincinnati. So it's going to be interesting. It is definitely going to be interesting. Trade deadline wrapping up. I believe it is on Thursday. Catch over on YouTube, part of our everydayers as well. Thankful to avoid that sweep, but the crew had lots of hits and little runs. Contreras at-bats are frustrating to watch. When does the, quote, playing everyday mentality start to hurt the team? It's such a catch-22 with William Contreras, because he's such a staple in that lineup. He's so fantastic. And what he did last year was absolutely terrific. You can tell he's just not healthy this year. And I understand the frustration amongst Brewers fans. Jefferson Caro going down with an injury once again down in the minors. He'll be out for a couple of weeks now. It's unfortunate, the timing of that. I do think William Contreras needs some sort of break. I don't know if he's going to go. He's definitely not going to go ask for it. That's for certain. But it might be a part, of the season. Maybe in August, as I mentioned, is very tough for the Brewers. 19 games in 18 days. But there's going to be something that has to be done with William Contreras. He's clearly not healthy right now. So I just don't. I don't know if that's going to happen because of his mentality. But it is starting to affect the team. They're moving him around in different parts of the batting order. They're trying to give him days off between catching. Eric Haas getting the start on Sundays most times than not. So it definitely is something to keep an eye on. I don't think it's necessarily hurting the team, because if you don't have William Contreras, whoever you're inserting into the lineup outside of William Contreras, are they notably better? I would probably say no. London over on YouTube. Catch has a great point. I get why Murphy relies on Contreras catching so much. Is he one of the team leaders? But Eric Haas has proved that he can be a good player, and he absolutely can. And I think, obviously you saw a bit of Eric Haas and William Contreras in the lineup together. William Contreras getting subbed out for Blake Perkins as a pinch runner, who did DH this afternoon with Haas behind the mound. But to me, we've seen flashes. It's been kind of an up and down year for William Contreras. But I think the Brewers, again, he's not going to go in and knock on Murph's door and ask if, for some time off or an IL stint. That's going to something drastically is going to have to happen, with William Contreras' finger, for him to do that. And Murph is a player's manager. If William Contreras goes to Murph and says, I'm good, I'm playing, Murph's going to let him go out there and play. Cap over on YouTube. Great win today, but don't ignore the need for improvement for this team. Siegler needs to be replaced, as well as getting an extra thump and arm in the pen. Everyone needs to step up, not just three players, especially offensively. Like outside of Jackson Chourio, you need Christian Yelich to kind of snap out of his funk. 1 for 4 this afternoon. Jackson Chourio and Andrew Vaughn, offensively speaking, outside of Blake Perkins' hit, are the only reason this team was in this game. I mean, they could have easily have lost 2-0. Jackson Chourio with that big RBI hit it early in this game in the 30th, and then Andrew Vaughn in the 8th inning. But you got essentially nothing at the bottom half of your lineup, minus the Eric Haas 2 for 3. Caleb Durbin was 0 for. Joey Ortiz only had 2 at-bats. He was 0 for. So, again, everybody does need to step up. I need more out of Bryce Terrain, but I need more consistency out of those guys, more than just having a game or two here or there. The consistency has to be there for this team. Charles, everydayer. That was one of the best wins of the year. Comeback clutch in the end and avoid a sweep going into the Cubs series. That was capitalized huge. It was big for 2 reasons for me, Charles, because I completely agree with you. Number one, you had to avoid the sweep. You should be worried about winning every game possible from here on out, especially in a tight race in the National League Central. But number 2, for me, you get a little bit of swagger back going into that Cubs series. You did not want to go into a what's going to be a playoff atmosphere series against this Cubs team with Jacob Mizorowski, keep in mind, on the mound tomorrow, especially with how many Northsiders are going to make the trip up to American Family Field, as they always do. you did not want to go into this series losing 3 straight games to the Miami Marlins. I'm not taking anything away from the Marlins. 21-8 in their last 29 games. They have been one of the hottest teams in all of baseball. I think the 3rd hottest by record wise. So they have been absolutely fantastic. Number one, you get back into the win column. You kind of right your wrongs a little bit. You want to see more offense going forward. But number 2, you get a little bit of momentum. You get a little bit of swagger back going into what right now, tomorrow, starting at American Family Field, will be the series of the year. I know I've said that maybe twice on this show since I started in April, but that series against the Cubs is going to set the tone for the rest of the year. And you had to bounce back and get a win, and they certainly did that. Ty in the Mile High says, Blake Perkins with a moment. Good for that guy. He's easy to cheer for. Tough series for the offense with runners in scoring position, but they finally figured it out the last couple of innings. Yeah, today was not good with runners in scoring position for the Brewers. Yesterday, they were 4 for 8. Today was not so good. 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position, 11 guys left on base. So not great, certainly when you have runners in scoring position. And when you have a team like the Chicago Cubs who rely more heavily on their offense than any other part of their game, when you have those starting pitchers, when you have those relief pitchers, when you have that back end of the bullpen on the ropes coming up with that series, you have got to take advantage of it. And we'll certainly see if the Brewers can. D-Dubs says Perkins not only with the walk-off, but they don't tie that game unless he gets the steal in the 8th. Pretty good for a guy that wasn't even the starting lineup. And that's what makes guys like, we have talked about it, where Blake Perkins, I know Jake Bauers is not the greatest example as of late, but earlier in the year, Jake Bauers was certainly another one of those guys where doesn't play every day, gets called up, and just doesn't really skip a beat for whoever they're stepping in for. The turning point for me was the Andrew Vaughn double, but you could certainly always point at that Blake Perkins steal because how Andrew Vaughn hit that ball. If Blake Perkins is on first base and it's a ground rule double, he's only getting third base. So it was huge. And who knows? Who knows, after if Isaac Collins or Caleb Durbin wouldn't have been able to bring guys in with second and third with less than 2. I don't know. But I mean, that was really big. And that was big time for this Brewers team going forward. Daniel over on YouTube says in 2018, Jesus Aguilar took over first base duties after Eric Thames' injury. Do you see the same thing happening with Vaughn keeping his spot once Hoskins comes back? Right now, I do not think that's even a discussion. Absolutely. I've said it a few times, certainly prior to the All-Star break. I think it was right after the All-Star break. Yes. Right after the All-Star break, they had Vaughn off because, they were in the righty lefty with Jake Bauers before his shoulder injury. And I said, I don't care who's pitching. I would have Andrew Vaughn. I mean, he has been consistent as consistent gets since you go back to that week before the All-Star break where he came in and brought up from Nashville after that trade from Aaron Savali. He has been absolutely fantastic. There's no reason right now at all. And we're still probably a couple weeks away from Hoskins making, his comeback here. I think second-ish week of August or so. Would I remove Andrew Vaughn right now from this lineup? There's no chance at all. Jill Miller, our final comment over on our YouTube live chat. Churio belongs at cleanup. Yelich prior to today had 114 strikeouts in 373 at-bats. In my opinion, not enough contact for a cleanup hitter. I made the comment about this lineup being quirky and kind of weird to start this one. I did not like it. I would have personally, I know they're trying to ease Sal back into it. If you wanted to DH somebody, and I understand, I would have maybe have leaned at just giving Contreras the day off, let Eric Haas be the catcher. Now, hindsight's 20/20, of course. I can sit back and critique it all I want. The Brewers did get the win. I would have let Sal DH, kept him in the leadoff spot. I would have moved Jackson Chura, who was in the 2-hole today, down to that cleanup spot. He's clearly been your best hitter. Andrew Vaughn was in the 5-hole. I probably kept him there, but Christian Yelich, I always loved Christian Yelich in the 2 spot. I always have. Off the top of my mind, I don't remember where he batted in his MVP years. Now, completely different roster, of course. A lot of protection beyond Christian Yelich on those teams with Ryan Braun, but it did feel like a quirky lineup for manager Pat Murphy. Now, you get the win, nobody really cares, and everything's good to go. But nonetheless, it did feel like a questionable, head-scratching lineup, a little bit offensively speaking for Pat Murphy, but. He's better at his job than I am at mine because the Brewers do get the victory today, a 3-2 win over the Marlins at American Family Field. My thanks to each and every one of you for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day each and every day. Remember, if you're out there listening, we are free and available wherever you get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps, as well as everything is over on YouTube with my guy Chuck Freeman on the daily. You can get me after games. Just go to that search bar on YouTube, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live. And boy, are we going to go live this week, as it's the Brewers and the Cubs tied atop the National League Central in a 3-game series at American Family Field. I cannot wait. I am going to have a hard time sleeping this evening. I'm going to have a hard time at my day job tomorrow, focusing with the Cubs and the Brewers atop the NL Central. And boy, oh boy, is summer officially really underway in the baseball world, as it will be a pivotal series out there at American Family Field, a playoff type atmosphere. No doubt about it. My name is Brandon Snide. Again, you can follow me over on X, formerly Twitter, at Brandon_Snide. Follow all my work over at WTMJ.com. And we will be back on the airwaves tomorrow, as it's Jacob Mizorowski versus the Chicago Cubs at American Family Field. Feels good to get back in the win column, as we always say. Win, lose, or draw certainly feels good after back-to-back losses to get back into the win column. Thank you, Blake Perkins. Thank you, Andrew Vaughn. Win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.